A hummingbird's existence is defined by extreme energy management. To survive, these tiny pollinators must constantly burn fuel, keeping their wings beating fast enough to hover midair just to eat. When observers spent time filming a specific female hummingbird named BAILY, they noticed something strange in her behavior. She was exhibiting a flight pattern no one had documented before. Instead of maintaining a stable, stationary hover behind her nest, BAILY would routinely drop into a slow, downward-backward spiral. At first glance, experts guessed she was hunting for bugs, but hummingbirds have to constantly preen or pin their feathers to keep them clean enough to fly. They do this by scratching, using their legs and beaks to comb through their plumage. Slowed-down footage revealed the mechanical truth behind the spiral. BAILY had a severely broken leg. Because she had to use her one good leg just to stand on a branch, the only way she could scratch under her wing was to take off, free up her working leg mid-air, and let gravity pull her down as she preened. For a creature that weighs just 4 grams, losing a limb usually means a rapid death. A broken leg limits the basic ability to perch, conserve energy, and evade predators. BAILY was facing a massive physical conflict. She lacked the basic mechanics to stand or groom herself normally, and yet she was preparing to enter the most physically taxing phase of her life, raising a chick. Building a hummingbird nest demands intense biomechanical exertion. It requires hunting down specific fragile materials in the wild, gathering loads of spiderweb fluff, lichen, and moss. Constructing that tiny home takes roughly 10 days and requires up to 400 separate foraging trips, all woven together using nothing but a beak and tiny feet. Weaving those materials into a stable cup requires a bird to stand securely, pivot, and press down with both feet. For BAILY, with only one working leg, the usual mechanics of construction were impossible. She solved this by modifying her architectural approach. She searched the canopy until she found a highly specific perch, a branch featuring a tiny protruding wooden nib. BAILY used this small knot of wood as a literal crutch. By resting her body weight against the nib, she stabilized her broken side, freeing up her single good leg and her beak to weave the moss and spider silk. The result was a structurally sound, tightly woven nest that entirely masked the severe physical limitations of its builder. Her completed nest proved that maternal drive can push a creature to bypass its own physical handicaps through calculated environmental engineering. Building the nest is only the beginning of her physical output. Once the eggs are laid, that tiny piece of architecture is under constant siege from winter freezes and cunning forest predators. BAILY became a ferocious guardian. If anything stepped too close to her hidden home, she would fly nose to beak with humans and other animals, hundreds of times her size, chirping frantic, aggressive warnings to force them away from her young. Despite her fierce defense, some threats bypass all natural defenses entirely. A few months later, a devastating environmental windstorm tore through the canopy. The force of the wind caused a catastrophic failure. The painstakingly woven nest was ruined, and BAILY's eggs were thrown to the bottom of the tree. In the aftermath, her behavior changed. The tone of her chirp dropped into a low warble as she repeatedly returned to the ruined nest, inspecting the empty cup where her eggs once were. After several days of returning to the site, her instincts took over. She found a new perch and immediately began the 10-day process of building another nest from scratch. In the wild, maternal resilience is measured by an immediate, relentless return to the exhausting work of survival after losing everything. That persistence paid off. Over the next 2 years, BAILY survived a statistical gauntlet of predators, storms, and freezes by continuously adapting and rebuilding her life. After 2 years of standing like a dumbwaiter with a feeder, the observer finally saw her change. She moved past her initial suspicion and eventually landed her one good leg on the observer's hand to eat directly from a small flower feeder. This 4-gram creature survived winter freezes, predators, and the loss of her young, all while navigating the world with a permanent injury. She is the embodiment of tenacity triumphing over extreme physical fragility. It forces a question: How many hidden, high-stakes biological dramas do we walk past every single day? These complex microecologies are thriving right next to us. They happen deep in the branches of backyard trees, tucked into local parks, and hidden under the eaves of simple window boxes. The photographer who filmed BAILY adopted a strict guiding ethos after surviving a near-death motorcycle crash in his youth. He realized that humans must actively choose to open their eyes to notice these hidden worlds. Cultivating curiosity for the microscopic struggles in our own backyards shifts our perspective. When we pay close attention to the smallest lives, we change the way we value and protect the natural world.